Welcome back to the channel. Good to see you. Glad to have you. Pull up a chair. Today we're going to carve little dogs. Little dogs. And they turned out fantastic. You can see them better when I hold them differently. But like this little guy is kind of like a bulldog kind of thing going on. And I got a golden retriever. And we got like a wolf or like a husky kind of thing going on with the wider tail and the wider paws and the white ears, and they turned out really fantastic. So this is a knife only whittle. It's really easy. It's not hard. It's not complicated. You can do this pretty quickly. And yeah, I think people will enjoy it. So let's go ahead and flip the camera around. We'll jump right into it. One last look at our doggos all lined up, huh? Don't they look fantastic? Lots of variety there. Fun little whittle. Easy to do. Knife only. Today I'm using this Helvy detail knife. It is a nice knife. It doesn't matter what knife you use. I like using a detail knife because it goes all the way across the wood and it's still a pretty small form factor for a knife. Whatever knife you want to use doesn't matter, just one knife, knife only, and we're going to have a pencil out so we can do our measurements and do our drawing on our figure. I'm going to use a tape measure to show you that this is 2.5 inches long on a 1 inch by 1 inch block. So 2.5 inch long block, 1 inch by 1 inch. For our first measurement, I'm going to come over about 1/4 inch right here, and I'm going to draw a line here that goes up about 1/2 inch, and I'm just going to continue that over. So 1/4 inch over, 1/2 inch up, continue that over. I'll continue that over around the back to about the midway point and come down, okay? So from 1/4 inch over, 1/2 inch up, all the way across. Continue that line all the way across to about the midway point to the 1/2 inch over from the corner. That's going to be our tail. From there, I'm going to come over about 1/4 of the way, and the same height as this tail, I'm going to come in and then do this kind of thing right there. It's hard to give you a measurement on this. Basically, this is going to be your back hind leg. And however high you put that, however round you put that's going to kind of determine the shape of the hind leg of the doggo that you're doing, okay? Now, when it comes to this, just to make sure I point this out, in the upper left-hand portion right here of the screen, that is the overlay of the carving that we're doing right now. Everything that you see happening on this block of wood is going to be shown the finished product right here. This is the block of wood that we're working on right now. Same thing. I can't see the overlay, so I'm going to be talking. I might be grabbing a carving that's already done to show you while I'm talking about things, but you can always look at the overlay to see how things are going to work out in the end and what the finished product is going to look like. With that said, I'm going to take this line right here and continue that along the bottom. Not because we need it along the bottom, because it helps me keep in line for where that foot is going to be on the front of the carving. So I know now that foot here is in line with this hind leg as well right there, which is fantastic. Now I want to figure out where that line is right here so I can have it be the same height for that foot all the way around. And now that I've got that front paw done out, or the back paw done out, I can do this hind haunch again and try to make sure it's even. I'm going to look at one side, look at the other. I go farther back on this side than I do on this side. Let me continue that around a little bit. Is that pretty close? It's pretty close. They don't have to be perfect, right? A dog doesn't sit perfectly symmetrical every time. If you watch a dog sit, some lazy dogs will just be leaning so hard. Especially the person next to them, they lean on their person all the time. My dog does that because I've got a St. Bernard. She's leaning all the time. Okay, so that's the basic gist of the back hind legs. For the head, we're going to have it. Let's work on this side. It'll be a little bit easier. We're going to have those ears come in about like so. So the back, and then we can have that back come down like so. And then take that part off there for the top of the head. And bring things in for the chest right there. The chest will come out right here. And it'll come down to the front feet like so. Okay. So what are some measurements on this? Because I'm just eyeballing this. Okay, it's about 3/4 of an inch to the bottom of this ear back here that we're going to have. Okay, about 3/4 of an inch right there to the bottom of that. The bottom of that chin right there, where I'm going to start this, I'm going to come down about 5/8 of an inch to right here. About 5/8 of an inch is where that line starts. And I'm coming down to a point that is 3/4 of an inch for that point right here. So coming from that 5/8 mark to that 3/4 of an inch down right there. And that point is over 1/4 of an inch in. So 1/4 of an inch in, 3/4 of an inch down, right to there. And then we're putting that outermost portion of the chest at about 2.5 inches down from the top right there. So that gives you a couple points you can use to plot that out on your own block of wood right there. And that is where we're at. Now we're going to adjust things as we go. This just gives us kind of an overview of what it's going to look like on the carving to give us starting points as we begin to set things in. For instance, we're going to start right here in the tail. And to do that, I'm going to carve in with a stop cut. I'm not going to carve just straight in right here. I'm going to angle the knife slightly back like so. So it's kind of going uphill into the carving. You see how that is right there? So I'm going to rock that knife blade in like so, and carve right down to it. Not setting in too much depth, just a bit, but I do want that slightly uphill cant to the line there. Why do we want that? Because then when we carve down to it, we don't have a hard 90-degree angle coming from that tail. We have just a slight angle at a lessened angle, I should say, and it looks more natural. Carve off that corner. You see, we can just kind of bring that in a little bit to where it looks like a tail just kind of fluffed up against the back. It's round and it doesn't look hard, okay? So that's what we're going for there. Now, the same thing here. I'm going to use the tip of the knife blade, and I'm going to trace around here and then down as well. And I'm going to take that hard corner off and have it kind of rounded down. Now you can do it some in the other direction if it's more comfortable for you. Come in here and carve down and around. So I'm just going to show you right here what I'm talking about. I'm going to carve just the tip of the knife in, down, and then bring that blade in on the outer edge. Do you see that? So I came down and then I brought the whole blade in. Now I can carve up to that point, and then carve right here around that corner to relieve around that tail. That it's not that hard to do. Take a little time, work on it, get it relieved right. Take off these hard edges right there, and then make sure you take off those saw marks on this tail as well while we're here. Why do I say take off those saw marks? Because if you don't take them off on this doggo right here, take a look at him. So I left the saw marks right here. And you can see how it takes paint and stain differently. I tell people that in every video. Hey, don't forget the saw marks. If you don't take them off, they take paint and stain differently. So you can see those blade marks in the band saws that cut the wood. And that is always going to be on this carving because I forgot to take them off on that one section. Every other section I did fine, but that one section I didn't take them off, and now you can see it forever ensconced in the carving. So that's something that's going to happen. Mistakes happen. I make mistakes. You make mistakes. It doesn't matter. Okay, so I'm going to take off these hard corners right here because we don't need those hard corners. I'll take it off all the way up, right like so, on both sides of the back. Now we're going to start right here where the back of the ears are, and I'm going to do a stop cut, and I'm going to come straight in. I'm going to rock that knife back and forth along that back edge, and then I'm going to carve up to it, like so, and then snap that out. I'm going to do the same thing on the other side. I'm going to rock that knife in, I'm going to carve right up to it, and snap it out. The same thing again, working my way towards the middle, snapping it out, carve some more depth. Take off that corner again, take off this corner again, Let's get some more depth in there. I want to point out here too, this is where people think, oh, Johnny has a sharper knife. Johnny has softer wood. Johnny is able to get that knife in there far easier than I can. And for some folks who say that, I might say, you probably didn't watch the Whittling 101 video. Or if you did, you might not have really picked up something that I try to show in that video and illustrate that folks don't get. If I'm just trying to push the knife blade in, right? Like right here, I try to push. Let's say I want to take this corner off and I'm pushing. It takes a lot of force to try to push that cut all the way through here, right? I can do it, but I'm going to put a lot of force on there. But I do this cut differently, and it looks so easy. It looks so effortless for some folks. Like, wow, you're getting a lot of wood off there. What's the difference? And it's hard to pick up when you see it on a camera, unless I slow it down and show you. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to slow it down and show you, okay? Let's get it cleaned up. We'll get right in here and look at this, okay? As I go forward, watch the knife blade travel this way, okay? Think about it like slicing bread. If you just push, you crush the loaf. But if you slide the knife as you push, every slice becomes easier. You don't need to slide much. And in many cases, I'm barely sliding. But just that slight movement, forward, backward, left or right, is enough to keep that knife moving smoothly through the wood, easily taking off whatever chunks I need. And even right here, it doesn't look like much, but it's just pushing it up and forward. You can see it a little bit easier now when you're paying attention and you're seeing that's what's happening. He's sliding that knife. That was the key for me for a long time. I wasn't doing that, and I was just forcing the knife through the wood all the time. And I didn't think about or see or notice all the slicing action that other carvers were doing until I went to the Renegade Roundup and I got a chance to carve with some folks and I saw their knife action in person. I was like, oh my gosh, that's what you're doing that I'm not. So that's what I wanted to point out right there. So we've taken off a little bit of wood there on the top of that head, just off where we had drawn that line, right, of what we want to remove. And now we're going to do a little bit on the front right here, right, underneath the neck and above the chest. So I'm going to start that on the left side here by doing a stop cut right here, a stop cut up to it. I'm going to relieve that and up to it. Now I'm going to do the same thing on the other side. Stop cut from the bottom, stop cut from the top. I'm going to join it in the middle, join it in the middle. And again, I'm doing that sliding action. It's easy to miss it, but it's not much movement. Like this is exaggerated, just that. It's just a slight movement, and that's enough to keep that knife sliding smoothly, and sliding more smoothly than maybe you're accustomed to it sliding. That's why folks look at the carving that I'm doing, they're like, oh man, Johnny's getting a lot of wood so easy. Why is it so easy for him? That's it. That's what it is. And I talk about that in the Whittling 101 video. So if you hadn't had a chance to watch that, definitely watch that Whittling 101 video. It would really help you out, I think, if you're struggling with that. Okay, so we've got this guy making some good progress. You can already see the silhouette of what we're looking for. He's starting to come together. So before I get too much farther, I'm going to go ahead and cut out this section right here, put the front paws in. So we're going to flip this carving upside down, and I'm going to do a stop cut right here along the top of those paws on one corner and carve down to it. I'll do the same thing on the other side. Stop cut right there and carve down to it. Free that. Now we're going to connect those sides all the way across. Stop cutting, then cutting down to it. Just like so. Okay, so we got our front paws cut in. We got a good silhouette going on here right now, right? We got the head, the chest, the front paws, the rear haunches we haven't set in yet because that is on this silhouette here. So to start working on this, the first thing we need to do is we need to thin out that head. To do that, we're going to come in about a quarter of the way on each side. So I'm going to take out 1/4 of an inch on each side and leave a 1/2 inch there in the middle, okay? So all the way up to that line on either side, I'm going to carve everything off on each side. But I'm not going to carve it all the way along the whole carving. I'm going to carve it from this bottom haunch right here all the way up to there. So before you do it on your own, watch what I'm doing here so you can see it, okay? From that bottom haunch, just slightly above it, I'm just going to carve straight up. And I keep doing this, getting deeper along the top as I go. And when I get this finished up here, I want to show you what I'm looking at. So I barely have any depth right here, but I got a lot of depth at top. See, we took most of that off. Now it's not completely square, so let me go ahead and fix that. That's what you do. You carve, and you look at what you carved, and you adjust accordingly. So you can see we've started to develop that silhouette a bit more from this angle. So we do the same thing the other side, from that bottom haunch up, and we're going to take out that 1/4 of an inch. So from that bottom haunch on up. And take out a little bit more. So many wood chips. Just like so. That's looking pretty good. It's looking all right. So we started to get that silhouette developed from right there. We got a nice thin head. Still got our good silhouette from the side. Now what we need to do is we need to start setting in those rear legs and figuring out how we're going to do that. So to do this, just like I talked about with that tail, where we're angling the blade kind of up and in, the same thing. We're going to angle the blade at the angle this pencil is as we go around it, so that angle is going to be maintained like this, like that around the foot, and like that around the foot, okay? Always having higher here, lower there, going downhill from this to there. That's what I'm talking about, going downhill. So to do that, which one do I want to carve first? Let's do it right here. So I'm going to carve in at an angle like so, along that front of this foot here, okay? And then in along that haunch, and then around. And adjust the carving as you need to. All right? So we traced that in. Nope. I chipped out that piece there. That's okay. That's where that rear paw goes, right here. I can kind of cut that in. You'll see this again too on the other side as well. Now, we're also going to come in right here along that haunch and just come right down, real gentle, and then snap that out. So we started to develop that paw and that foot. It looks really rough right now, and that's fine. It can look rough. We don't need that real hard corner right there, so I can start to shave that down a little bit like that, right? Now I'm going to take out some more along the top of that haunch. Like so. And you can see how the shape of that haunch, okay, coming in at this angle right there, really looks a lot better than if we didn't have it at that angle. Take that hard edge off right there. And I'm just cleaning up those little fuzzies there, because that's what we need to do. I'm going to take that hard edge off. Now we're going to do the same thing on this other side, but I'm going to try to carve this one a little bit differently. What I want to do is I want to make it look, I want to make it as easy as I can, okay? So from here, again, I'm going to carve in, and I'm only carving in with just the tip, like that much of the tip here as I go in, because we want to have the same depth on this side as we do on this side. Carve in at that angle and just carve right up to the exit point there, okay? Now to do this a little bit easier, I'm going to come in going towards this point with the tip of the knife going to that corner. I'm going to come straight in, and then I'm going to angle that knife like so, and I'm just going to dig that tip in right there and rock it in till I get a little bit of depth. You can see the kind of depth I got there, right? Now I'm going to do the same thing. Not the same thing. I am going, well, actually, yeah, I am going to do the same thing. At an angle, I'm just going to dig that tip in nice and deep, right like so. Okay? And that gives me a point to start from. Carve down into that haunch and then chip it out. Okay? That's an easier way to start this up than I did on the other side with that angled, long, fluid cut. It's a little bit easier to do in that manner right there. Okay, now we already got a stop cut here, so I need to free this up. Let's just find that stop cut, then chip it out. Again, and we need to take a little bit more. Let's come in from the side, or from the front, and come in from the side. Free that up. Like so. We're making really good progress, looking like a good dog haunch. I'm going to take off the front of that paw right there, and I'm going to take off this hard edge, like so. Okay? Now we still got to do the top of this haunch. So, to do that, again, 45-degree angle in and just carving around a bit. And then I'm going to do the same thing, V-cut, meeting that point and carving it over and around, right? That's a little bit easier than we did on the other side to do it like this, I think. So it should be a little bit more accomplishable. For those who thought the way I did it on the other side was harder, that's a little bit more accomplishable. We knocked that out. Now see, I already took off these saw marks here last time I left this. Let's not do that this time. So let's take those saw marks off right here. Right, like so. Okay? If those edges right here seem a little hard, go ahead and take those hard edges off right here. You follow? Soften them up like so. All the way around the carving, however you want to. Same for that front paw. Same for this front paw. Okay. Now, we got the paws all in. What we don't have in is the separation in the front of the legs here. So before I do that, I'm going to take off the saw marks on the chest and the saw marks in the front of the feet. Front paws, I should say. Okay. And now what we're going to do is we're going to put a little separation in here along the chest, right up to the top point, and that'll be where our paws go in. From there, I'm going to carve at a 45-degree angle like so, all the way down that line. And I'm going to come back in from the other angle to release it. So, 45-degree angle, right along that cut, and just pilot that knife on down. Now I'm going to do the same thing from the other direction. 45-degree angle, pilot that knife on down. If you got a V tool, making that little V cut is really easy to do. You can deepen this too if you want to. Do that again from the other direction. Do it again from this direction and just get a little bit wider with it, like so. You can open that up a little bit more. And now at the top, let's do two little V cuts. One from one direction and one from this direction. And that puts a little thing at the top, kind of gives the illusion of two haunches coming down right there, I think. I think it looks fantastic. Let's round off that hard edge right there. On up to here. Okay. Now this point we're at here, this is where you change how this dog looks. That blocked in section here can change completely. So I want to point out how we have differences here, okay? One, I went with a longer, thinner snout. And when I do a longer, thinner snout, it comes out looking wolf-like or like a husky kind of thing going on right there, right? That longer snout, okay? If you don't want to do a husky kind of dog, maybe you want to do a pit bull. If you don't want to do a wolf, maybe like a pit bull right here or a Rottweiler, you can flatten that front off. It can look more like a bulldog. Bring that kind of thing in. So you got this section here. So what you would do for him is you would carve it up to here. For one of those guys, you would carve the top down more, carve the bottom up more, and elongate that snout. For this guy here, you shorten that snout, okay? For this guy here, he's kind of halfway in between, but whereas for the other ones, we did nice pointed ears. Here, we're gonna flop him over. So he's more like the Rottweiler shape, but with flopped over ears, okay? So if I wanted to do those ears like these guys here, I'd start here and I'd curve up and in from the very back of the ear here, okay? I want to do a golden retriever type. So rather than do that all the way back, what I'm gonna do is carve off right there. And now I'm going to carve from here, just kind of up and in, up and in, up and in, from this point to that point. I'm gonna do the same thing over here, from this corner to that corner, and just smoothly take off and round out this section here. So we can start to develop that doggo face, okay? Now we got a hard corner up here in the top. We don't need that hard corner. We need to flatten this out some. So you can just come in here and just start flattening out a bit at a time. But you can do it a little bit more efficiently. Taking off those saw marks. And remember, how you shape this is how that dog is going to look, like what type of dog it is. There's so many different breeds of dogs. And if you're wondering, like, I want to make this one specific breed, Johnny, Google that dog, okay? Google that dog, pull up that image on your phone. Take your little phone stand and set your phone down in there, and be able to look at your phone while you're working and have that picture of that dog pulled up, and then start looking at how can I do this. Or Google, let's say you're doing St. Bernard, Google howling St. Bernard, right? And then look at that dog and the way it's holding its chin, the way it's holding its jowls, and try to change your carving to reflect that picture. You can do that, and people are better at that than they think they are. Just a lot of folks have never tried to do that, so it might be a fun exercise you can try to see what you can do. All right, for us here, I'm going to take off these hard corners underneath the chin and bring that neck in a little bit more, okay? So his head's at more of a severe angle going up than the one we have over here. Well, it's close, right? Now, I am going to take that hard center line and round that out more too. I'm trying to get that as round as I can, running down into that base. So you see how that nose is kind of coming up now? My finger behind it kind of gives that like a cartoony, more kind of look, right? It looks absolutely fantastic. I love that. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to take those hard corners off the back of the ears, and I'm going to carve up to those ears a bit more, undercutting that back there to bring them in farther. Same thing in the back here, bringing it in farther, okay? If you want to, you can round these back edges off a bit more as well. Doing that is fantastic because it will enable you to not have as fat of a doggo, maybe a thinner one if you want a thinner one. But right now he's got a good thick body, and we're gonna really like the way he looks, I think. Okay, so for this one with the floppy ears that we're gonna do, we're gonna give him floppy ears from up here, like so, okay? It's not much of a line. It's kind of like a sideways U right there. And all I'm going to do, see how I do this. Again, I'm not going to come straight in on that line. I'm going to 45 it, going downhill from the high point on the ear to the low point on the jowls. And I'm just going to carve around like so. And now I'm going to carve from the top of that on down, and then try to chip that out. Recutting as necessary. You can see we got that ear put in. He's looking really good. That's a good looking doggy. Take that hard edge off right there. Now we're going to do the same thing on the other side. Kind of like a sideways U, right? Sideways U. And if you want to make it longer, you can make those ears droopier, bring them down here if you want to. Play around with it. See what you like. Just like so. coming in at that angle like that. And we're going to V-cut that kind of from the other side. Bring it in, curving. See, I'm moving the carving and holding the knife, because then I'm less likely to lose control of the knife and stab myself. So I know I don't want to put a lot of pressure on the knife, and I just bring that carving around. Another way I'm controlling the action of the knife and not letting the knife get away from me, right? As long as we're controlling where the knife goes, we are not going to cut ourselves or injure ourselves, which is absolutely fantastic. Well, you can see I got this here on this side is smaller than this here on this side. They don't quite line up when you look at it from the top. But they look great from either side individually. That one looks good, and that one looks good. So maybe he just could be sitting kind of crooked, you know? And that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that at all. And try to fix it a little bit, but okay. Now on the back of the head here, between the two ears, we're going to do a V cut. Come down from either side and start to relieve a good sized V right there. Okay, and I'm going to try to smooth it in, round it over a bit. Not wanting to round over. Come in sideways a little bit right there. There we go. Rounding that out as best I can between those ears. See, I'm just bringing the knife in and out. Okay, so where are we at? What are we doing? Let's see here. What all left do we have left here? Let's go ahead and look at putting in our snout, our eyes, and our mouth. That seems to be all we have left. For that dog's tail, I would actually continue this line down. I just never finished that. 45 that, 45 that. Because the tail just doesn't start there slowly. It has a bit of a line. Even if the dog tail is going around the corner there, it's going to have a delineation there. You're going to see where it starts, you know. So just that little bit there will help us out and look better. And then for the bottom of the carving too, dog's butted and square against the floor. Round that in just a little bit along the tail, all the way around the carving. And he'll look a little bit better when he's sitting there on something with that rounded end. Same thing on the front paws there. Round those in. Well, that's another thing we didn't do. We didn't separate the front of the paws. We separated the front of the legs, but not the paws themselves. So we just do a V cut right here. Push the knife in and push into it. And then look right there along the top as well. And bring into it. Okay. If you need to, you can open it up a bit more in there by carving out a little section there, like this. There we go. Separates that out nice and easy. Looking pretty good. Okay, so let's do that mouth. Now, you can do mouths several ways, and I've got a couple different suggestions here for that, okay? For one that's like a wolf, on this one here, I did the bottom jowl on top of the top jowl. So I cut this line and then removed wood on this side to have this higher. But I did the opposite on this little bulldog here, right? I put the line in and then I removed from the bottom up. So figure out what you want to do, what style is going to match for what you're looking for. The third thing I did was on this golden retriever, I did a V cut here. And then right in the outside edge, I continued the line around and then carved up to it. So it kind of looks like his mouth's a bit open, but coming up from the bottom. I really like that look. So that's what we're going to do on the one that we've got right here. Okay? So to start with, take that hard corner off on each side. Okay? And now I'm going to do a V cut right across the front. I'm going to come in left to right, and then carve into it, right like so. I'm going to open that up a little bit more. all the way across there, like so, right? Now I'm going to bring that line around to the outside edge, and then carve up to it. Bring that line around the outside edge, and carve up to it. I'm going to elongate that line a little bit. Elongate that line just a little bit. So we got that mouth just kind of started. And if you want to, you can open the mouth up by deepening this V cut right here a little bit more. It's up to you, and you can kind of open that up a little bit, like he's starting to howl, like his mouth is starting to open, right? Not too hard. Now here for the nostrils, we're not going to do much. This simple carve, we're going to put a little V cut there and a little V cut right there, okay? First off, we want that plane to be a bit flatter for the nose, right there. Okay, so a V cut and a V cut. And you can see we just got just a bit of a nose there, right? Nothing crazy. I'll take off those hard edges on the left and right. Round things around, and then we just got that little bit of a nose. It is not much. It doesn't need to be much. This is a simple carving. It's a simple style. We're not going for anything complex. We're going for the illusion of a dog. It's just a really fun little thing. Now, for the eyes, let's create a little plane here. If you don't have one already, figure out which direction the grain is going, and that's the direction you carve in. Okay? So for the eyes, what we're going to do is we're going to do a little triangle cut. We're going to do a straight line here, and then we're going to V cut to it. So let me show you what I mean first, okay? On that straight line, I'm going to just push the knife blade in, okay? That's all I did. Straight line, push the knife blade in. Now, I'm going to V cut from one end of that line, in, and then from the other end, in, and just create a little triangle with the point of the triangle being towards that nose, right? So same thing here. I'm going to come in and try to make it even with the other side. In, okay? And then V cut, V cut, which gives him little puppy dog eyes like so. And that completes the carving. That's where we're at with him. What I'm going to do is, you'll take a look at this carving, like zoom in here, Johnny, and you'll see all these little superfluous knife cuts, right? Like right here. That cut right there into the wood there doesn't look that great, right? You got all these little fuzzies everywhere. Spend a little bit of time trying to fix fuzzies where you can, okay? And then after you get done, if you can't get them all, take your carving over and wash it up, right? Run it under water for 2 to 3 minutes with a little bit of soap. And if you do that, you can heal a lot of those because the wood will expand. And when it expands, little spots like that superfluous knife cut right there will close up on you and you won't notice them as much. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this over the sink and I'm going to run it under water for 2 to 3 minutes. I'm going to wash it with dish soap and I'm just going to scrub it with my hands. Okay, let me show you what I'm going to do with my hands. I'm just going to put dish soap on it and I'm just going to rub it like this for 2 to 3 minutes in lukewarm water. And then I'm going to bring it right back here and I'm going to show you what that knife cut there looks like and what all this stuff here looks like, okay? So let me go do that real fast and I'll be right back. And we're back. So here is our carving. I want you to zoom in there, right? Do you see that superfluous knife cut anymore? It virtually disappeared. There are still some fuzzies, but not many. This carving looks significantly better than it did. People tell me when they see pictures on Instagram, they're like, oh my God, Johnny, your carvings look buttery smooth. They look absolutely fantastic. How did you do that? How did you do that? Well, I cheated. I washed the carving. And I tell people all the time, this is what you got to do to make it look like the way. People are still shocked when they see it though. So yeah, that is our little doggo all completed. Let's talk about painting. Every time someone asks about my painting and says it's fantastic, it's always because of dry brushing. So these are the colors that I use for the different dogs that I got here. The Golden Retriever was the neatest, I think, with these two colors right here. You start by applying the base coat, water it down, and just slather it on as best you can, and then get it dry. Once you get a good even coat on there and it's completely dry, you can go back over with the dry brushing. When it comes to dry brushing, you take a dry brush, no water in it, fill it with paint, and then wipe almost all of the paint off. Wipe it on a cloth or a dry cloth until the paint stops coming out of the brush, so to speak. And then grab your carving and lightly brush it across the surface all over the entirety of the thing. When you're doing this, you're basically painting poorly. You're not covering the entire surface completely, so you can still see the original base coat through the carving. And there they are, all finished up, our doggos all in a row, looking fantastic, howling at the moon or howling at whatever doggos howl at these days. I really appreciate your time. Head over to Instagram and Facebook, give me a like and a follow up there if you would. If you're following me on Instagram or Facebook, you would have saw pictures of what we were going to be carving already before we even got to this point, so you know what to expect. I really appreciate your time. Thank you so much for watching to the end of the video. And outside of that, I'll see you guys next time. Don't forget to click one of the videos pop up on the screen. Bye.